Hey guys, I'm Hop. Thank you for tuning in to TFBTV. Today we're taking a look at the new Ruger SFAR. This is one of the lightest factory 308 ARs currently available on the market. I've shot and reviewed a couple of lightweight AR-10s before, like the Sigtread 716i and the Springfield St. Victor 308, both of which are relatively lightweight as far as factory AR-10s go. But the SFAR is so light, it doesn't feel like an AR-10 at all. There is a 16-inch and a 20-inch barrel version of this rifle available. This is the 16-inch, and it comes from the factory weighing in at a little bit under 7 pounds. What's arguably more impressive is that Ruger was able to accomplish that weight without cheating and without indulging in a dangerously irresponsible level of skeletonization. Let's take a closer look at it. Usually when I talk about AR-10s, I have to start with a disclaimer that we're not actually talking about the Armalite AR-10. Aside from Knight's Armament and maybe Brownells, nobody actually makes Armalite AR-10 pattern rifles anymore. Basically, everybody's standard on DPMS LR308 or some variation of the DPMS LR308. The Ruger SFAR is not an Armalite AR-10 pattern rifle, and it's also not a DPMS LR308 pattern rifle. This is actually very close to something called the DPMS Gen 2, which is essentially an attempt to fit the 308 cartridge and magazine into a rifle the size of an AR-15. The DPMS Gen 2 pattern and the Ruger SFAR specifically have a couple of tricks to fit the larger cartridge and magazine into an AR-15 sized receiver set. So this has a slightly shorter bolt carrier group and charging handle than you would expect from a 308 AR. Also, the magazine is a little bit longer front to back. That's going to push the fire control group and the grip back to the rear, so much so that it actually overhangs the end of the receiver slightly. So there is a redesigned castle nut system that allows everything to line up flush. So what we're left with is a rifle in between an AR-10 and an AR-15 in size. I guess we can call it the AR-12.5. That's actually also where the name SFAR comes from. SF stands for small frame. This is not the same size as a traditional AR-10 or DPMS LR308. For example, Ruger's outgoing model, the SR762, I don't think they've made that in quite a while. That was a much bigger rifle than the SFAR. That's also one of the main reasons this gun is so lightweight. Ruger has done a whole bunch of little tiny things to make the gun weigh less, but some of the major components are still full size. For example, they did not cheat and use a smaller stock. This comes from the factory with a Magpul SL, full-size stock. Compare that to, for example, the Sigtread 716i, which comes from the factory with a Magpul SLK stock, which is smaller, lighter, has less capability. It's kind of an awful stock. So first thing you have to do when you get the 716 tread is replace the stock with a much better one, and now your advertised weight is sort of not accurate anymore. Same goes for the barrel. The Ruger SFAR does not have a lightweight or reduced profile barrel, as opposed to, for example, the Springfield St. Victor 308. That has a 16-inch lightweight bordering on pencil profile barrel, and that weighs in a little over 7 pounds. Conversely, the Ruger SFAR has a heavy profile 16-inch barrel and weighs in at less than 7 pounds. The Ruger SFAR achieves its svelte target weight partially because of the reduced size of the action and partially from judicious weight savings on the other parts. The receiver set is typical forged aluminum, not billet, so that shaves off a bit of weight. The extended end plate that allows the grip to fit flush with the back of the receiver is made of plastic, not steel. So the SFAR doesn't have a staked castle nut and end plate because you can't stake plastic as far as I know. On the upper receiver, the Picatinny rail slots have a relief cut running down the middle to shave off a bit more material. Probably the biggest weight-saving parts choice on the rifle is the handguard. This is basically the same M-LOK free float handguard from the Ruger MPR series rifles. The 16-inch version has an interrupted top rail with only a few slots of 1913 at the front and a few at the back. I'm not a big fan of this type of handguard, and I really don't know why so many of these have 1913 slots at the back. Cantilever scope mounts have been around for a while. You really shouldn't be putting a scope ring on the handguard, and these slots are also too far back to mount something like a thermal clip-on. This seems like bad weight savings to me. The 20-inch version of the SFAR does have a full-length top rail, but this rifle makes way more sense in the 16-inch configuration. The handguards themselves are aggressively skeletonized with huge venting holes, a little too big. Like with the MPR, it's pretty easy for your fingers to slip inside the handguard and touch the hot barrel or gas block assembly. Also, if the smooth top rail tempts you to C-clamp the rifle, you might get a jet of gas from the gas block into the palm of your hand, which is uncomfortable and kind of weird. The large cutouts in the handguard do give you access to the adjustable gas regulator, which is one of the really nice features of this rifle. I am not a fan of set screw adjustable gas blocks. They're tricky to tune and nothing about them seems robust or dependable. The SFAR has a much simpler gas regulator style of gas block with 4 positions, which you can adjust with your fingers or with a hex key that's stored in the grip of the rifle. Setting 1 is specifically for shooting suppressed, setting 2 is supposed to cycle most ammo unsuppressed, and setting 3 is supposed to cycle weak ammo unsuppressed. Emphasis on the word supposed. This is foreshadowing for later. To mitigate the potentially ass-kicking recoil of a superlight 308 semi-auto, Ruger ships the SFAR with a very aggressive 2-chamber muzzle brake, which they call the boomer brake. They know their audience, I guess. The boomer brake does a good job taming the recoil of the SFAR, but it's about as obnoxious as muzzle brakes can get. It looks like it's a massive lump of steel, but thanks to more aggressive lightning cuts, it's actually not too heavy. You could shave an ounce by switching to a smaller but still effective brake like a VG6 Gamma, but I would not bother. The SFAR is a good candidate for a suppressor host. It's already light and short, so adding a can doesn't destroy the balance and heft of the rifle. It has an adjustable gas regulator with a suppressor setting, and the barrel profile is easily stout enough to support the weight of a can. The last feature to call out on the SFAR is the trigger. Like with the aforementioned MPR series rifles, the SFAR comes with Ruger's Elite 452 trigger out of the box. These are really excellent, light and crisp 2-stage triggers. I can't imagine you would ever want to replace it with anything, but the SFAR will take normal AR-15 triggers, so I guess you could. The charging handle you may want to replace, and again, it'll take a normal AR-15 charging handle, not an LR308 or AR-10 charging handle. Alright, time to talk about reliability and accuracy. Unfortunately, my sample of the SFAR is not reliable at all. I shot several different brands and loads of ammunition through this thing with every possible combination of ammunition and gas regulator setting, and I was not able to get this thing to cycle reliably. Most of the time, it would fail to strip around from the magazine or fail to eject the empty case entirely. If I shot it with the gas all the way open, setting 3 of 3, and I used IMI Razor Core, which is a fairly hot-loaded, heavyweight bullet, it's pretty analogous to M118 LR, then it would cycle sometimes, but still not very dependably. Position 3. There we go. Now we're getting it. Fuck. That sucks, though. Gas coming out of the regulator in all directions. So, they've specifically chosen a rail you can C-clamp, but God help you if you C-clamp that without gloves on. Let's just try it once for science. Oh, never mind, we can't because the gun stopped working. Did my hand get in the way of some of your precious gas? I don't like that. That doesn't feel good either. So remember, the gas setting 1 is supposed to be for shooting suppressed, gas setting 2 is for shooting most types of normal ammo unsuppressed, and gas setting 3 is for very weakly loaded ammunition, or possibly as the adverse setting if the gun is getting dirty. Unsuppressed, I could not get it to cycle with anything. It seemed like it was very, very under-gassed no matter what the setting, no matter what the ammunition. So I brought this thing out for one last chance, took the factory muzzle device off, and installed my YHM Resonator K with a direct thread 5/8x24 mount. And now this thing cycles everything. It cycles a steel case, M80 ball. I was able to even turn the gas regulator setting down to 1, the suppressed setting, and it still cycles. So that seems to confirm that this sample of the gun is in fact woefully under-gassed. There's probably something misaligned or not drilled properly in the gas system. Could be the gas port, could be the gas regulator. That's not the only issue that I had with this gun, unfortunately. The ejection port door was also installed incorrectly, so the little C-clip had been omitted, and that means that the axle for the ejection port door was just sliding loose back and front. Not a big deal because you can just pull this thing out and then it's no longer going to gum up the works. And because this takes a lot of AR-15 parts, you can actually use one of those Magpul drop-in ejection port doors if you don't want to have to remove the handguard. Not that it's very difficult to remove the handguard. But anyway, just all these things kind of makes me think this gun was perhaps built at 4:45 p.m. on a Friday, and that means it would probably need to go back to Ruger for repair. Luckily, Ruger does have extremely responsive customer service, so I wouldn't be super worried about sending this thing in and getting it taken care of. It is just kind of a bummer. Also, this is a sample size of 1. It just so happens that 2 of TFB's riders currently have SFARs in for testing, Luke C and Rusty, and both of them had flawless reliability, unsuppressed, suppressed, bunch of different ammunition types, and for them the gas regulator was working exactly as intended. So definitely just an issue with this one, something that Ruger could and almost definitely would fix. As far as accuracy goes, I did not get particularly great results when shooting this gun. However, I was basically clearing a jam after every shot and getting very frustrated. So I was definitely not shooting my best. Probably managed at best about 2 MOA groups, even using Federal Gold Medal Match and the IMI Razor Core, which is very similar to M118LR. Luke definitely had better results with his SFAR than I did with mine because he wasn't busy cursing the name SFAR and racking the bolt after every shot. His results were not exactly what you'd call super high precision, but I think they're definitely adequate for a rifle of this type. Maybe if you do a little bit of load testing, you might end up getting one of these things to shoot extremely well. I'm ultimately not super concerned with the accuracy on a rifle like this because of what I kind of assume this thing is supposed to be used for. I would prefer to have this thing set up with a lower magnification scope, keep the overall weight very light, and worry less about half MOA precision groups and more about the fact that this is a very portable, potentially fast-firing, major caliber gun.
The reliability issues with my sample of the SFAR are disappointing, to say the least. I still find myself excited about the possibilities of the rifle, and I'm confident that Ruger could and would resolve any issues with this gun. The 20-inch version seems useless, but the 16-inch SFAR is super short and light. With the direct thread K-can on it like my Resonator K, it still feels absurdly light and handy. It weighs less than a lot of 16-inch AR-15s, to say nothing of other semi-auto 308s. Pair it with a lightweight LPVO or prism optic and you get a really intriguing package. An SFAR with a suppressor and a TA-11 ACOG sounds like a really potent package to take up into the mountains. I can't think of another way to get that much firepower into something this hikeable. The SFAR isn't going to replace the full-size 308 ARs across the board, but man, it definitely makes for an interesting complement to them.
Alright guys, that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. TFB TV is supported by our sponsors, Ventura Munitions and Top Gun Supply. They help make this channel possible, so please check them out. We're also supported directly by viewers via Subscribestar and Utreon. There's links to both of those in the video description. Check them out. If you join up, you'll be eligible for a bunch of giveaways that James puts together, and you also get to watch an exclusive Q&A series. See you guys next time. Oh, there's the sun. Takes a lot.